Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, it did. Delta Force 2 came along in 1999 and pretty much usurped DF1, mainly because it improved upon its predecessor in every conceivable way. The first title was a solid foundation of a game, so what were the main differences in the sequel? DF2 introduced more weapons, more customization for your character, more terrains and better missions. When creating your character, you had more faces to pick from, as well as female genders, which were not present in the first game. These weren't really groundbreaking, but your character model in multiplayer would represent your chosen avatar. Missions are a bit different in Delta Force 2. You now have quick missions, which are singular operations, as well as campaigns, which are similar to the first game, where you work through missions sequentially. Quick missions allowed you to cherry pick and play without commitment to the storylines. The loadout and briefing screen is very familiar, and Delta Force 2 introduced a few new weapons, such as underwater weapons, something that would never be seen until Arma 3, at least in the games I personally play. You can definitely see the fresh coat of paint when playing DF2. It introduced new locations and models, which made missions much more varied. You'd see trains, ships, enemy vehicles which can shoot you, and more variation in buildings and structures. My absolute favourite feature in this game is something that has still not been implemented well in modern games, and that is the grass concealment. Long grass would conceal your character and you could hide from enemies. This was basically a voxel trick and your character would phase through the terrain, but it was fantastic to be a ghillie suit sniper and hide from would-be sniper hunters, like I was. Modern games try to implement long grass mechanics, but they are simply just sprites or transparent graphics on top of the geometry, and depending on the player's specs, those sprites would simply vanish over distance, making any apparent concealment useless. In DF2, if you were concealed, someone over a kilometre away would still not be able to see you. Amazing. Someone bring this back, damn it. DF2's other technical improvements to the graphics engine would involve fog and implementing working ladders, which sounds so elementary today, but they were welcome features. I always thought the fog levels had a very nice ambience to them. Gameplay overall was much of the same, but the new toys and environments made this seem like the total package. With internet becoming more of a thing each month back in 1999, more and more people were getting online, and Delta Force 2 was their first foray into online warfare. Multiplayer was still amazing. Much like in DF1, it would mostly be custom maps featuring those crazy setups made by other players. This is a very obscure subject, but bear with me. I have to mention this to see if there is anyone still out there. There were two communities online. There was the unupdated players, the people who didn't patch their game, and those who played the 1.06 updated version. I was an unupdated player, and the community was incredibly niche. You honestly knew every player. I remember the clans too, KTFB, Dad's Army, and even my clan, UNUK, or UN-UK, my first and only game to be in a Goonie clan. I've even managed to track down their very 90s website. See the link in the description for a bit of 90s nostalgia. Like Delta Force 1, I remember having a blast online. You had nigh on unlimited choice of maps and game modes. If you didn't fancy playing against other folks, you could team up with cooperative. It really was something else. I believe Delta Force ushered in the open world shooter genre. It's a shame to see the absolute failure of Novalogic in the future because they struck lightning twice. The server lobby is still active and I even managed to host a game. I even checked the browser while hosting and my server actually appeared, although you cannot join any server in the game as it locks up when you select a server. This has been a problem for years and you need an external browser such as DF Favorites, which allows you to scan for servers and it would link up the game exe and launch through a third party means. I did attempt to download DF Favourites, but it had trouble finding the game in the Steam directory. If anyone knows of any 2014 and onward workarounds, it would be great to hear from you. Most videos on YouTube are getting up there in age now, so I'm bringing this subject to life again. Delta Force 2. It improved in every way, and it was just as sweet. Nothing lasts forever, but I'd love to join just one more team deathmatch game, or knife-only server. It was just a great mix at the right time. You'd be playing a ridiculous sky map, yet you had realistic weapon ballistics such as bullet drop, and a huge open world environment to enjoy. Delta Force 1 and 2 were the glory days of Novalogic, and it only got worse. Delta Force Land Warrior came along, which looked great. I bought it near release, but I was choked to find I couldn't run it due to my old PC at the time. I missed out on Land Warrior and Task Force Dagger, but looking back from other players' reviews and experiences, it didn't seem like I missed much. Land Warrior brought in new, smoother graphics, weapons and whatnots. I simply have no solid recollection for these games, so I can't really comment on them. Delta Force Black Hawk Down would come along and hold my attention for a while, but it simply never lived up to Delta Force 1 and 2. It was a good game, and I say good with finger quotes. It had a decent game engine for the time, but the environments, aka Somalia, was the only location in the game. Gone were the snowy mountain regions, the fog-ridden swamps, and the rolling grasslands, all replaced with flat desert. And this was before the modern warfare craze was in full tilt. Delta Force players were already fatigued of desert warfare before most people. Future Novalogic titles would be released with the same crusty Black Hawk Down engine, which I personally disliked. It just felt a bit floaty, and the netcode was always awful in my opinion. Nova would come out with Joint Operations, which was a very popular title for a short while. Novalogic coined it a BF2 killer with its huge maps and huge player counts. It still used that damn Black Hawk Down engine, and it felt no different in terms of combat, movement and interactions with the world. Joint Ops fizzled out as most people would be playing better games such as Battlefield 1942, BF2, Counter-Strike and Day of Defeat. Novalogic has slipped away into weird obscurity. I often look every 6 months or so to see if any recent news on Delta Force Angel Falls has been released, but nothing. Apparently, Novalogic were fined a 6-figure sum due to owning illegal software, and it pretty much crippled them. They have no Facebook or Twitter page, and their website is very dated. Their last release was Delta Force Extreme 2, which was a remake of Delta Force 2 using the fabled Black Hawk Down engine, and guess what? It was utter tripe. You can probably tell from the very creation of this content and the tone in my voice. I just feel a bit bad for Nova. They had a fantastic product at one time, and they just spiraled downwards. I can't seem to find any valid information on their operations. I guess they're dead. I really don't know, and I can't find any information. If anyone knows anything, even a modicum of information, just throw it in the comments. Let me know. There's just nothing on these guys, and it doesn't drive me insane, but it's just strange. How can a company that had such a following, such fans like me, just vanish? It's weird. And that is Delta Force 1 and 2. I hope you've enjoyed. Hopefully there's a few old players we're going to get out of the woodwork, and hopefully we can get a few comments from them, a bit of nostalgia. And there we are. There isn't really anyone talking about this game on YouTube, so here's some fresh 2014 content for the fantastic games that were Delta Force 1 and 2. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.